Hey everybody, I'm Sierra,
And I'm Ben.
and welcome back to another episode of the Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries. You got some new bling.
Yeah,
So is that what the cool kids call it?
this is what everyone over 40 needs in their life. It's glasses.
Glasses.
I don't need readers yet, but it's not far off.
I know.
There's been a few times where if my eyes are really tired, I pull up something, I'm like, oh, you got to kind of like...
I tell you what the eye doctor did to me.
He handed me the same thing. He was like, here, see if you can read this. He just handed it to me, and I think he waited to watch, and I like looked at it. Took me a second, and then I read some lines. He's like, all right.
He handed me and he said, read the lowest line you can. And so I read it and he goes, okay. He goes, let me show you something. And he gets these things out and he puts them in front. And then I could read the next line. He goes, this is what you'll be able to read if you wear readers. I was like, I'm not wearing readers. He goes, well, he literally turned to me, he goes, you might not need them now, but you're going to need them in a year or two. And I was like, well, thanks, dude. That was rude.
Nothing makes you feel older than going to the eye doctor after the age of like 30 something.
Yeah.
Because they have no problem telling you, maybe you feel young, but your eyes don't.
But your body ain't.
Yeah, exactly. It's just weird. I've never needed glasses in my life. And so even now, he said I could probably get away with not wearing them except for like while driving and stuff because mine's more astigmatism. But I picked out a pair of men's glasses and I'm in love with them. But the lady at the eyeglass place was very concerned that I was looking in the wrong area of the glasses department. She kept trying to
Sarah was looking for fashion, not function, and the lady was trying to tell her function, not fashion.
Well, and my last pair of glasses are children's size because I have a small head. So trying to find men's frames in a smaller size for what I was looking for was difficult. And she was really struggling with allowing me to do this, to pick these out. Her and I like had a little bit of a back and forth. Oh, here, Ben's gonna... Oh, snappy. Anyways, so we're here. I can see beautifully. I don't need readers yet, but it's coming soon. All right. Well, we are recapping season 4, episode 16. As you can tell, Ben is back here with us this week. He had last week off.
Yippers.
Yeah. And my dad was filling in for him. And we've got 4 stories to tell you guys about today. And Ben is going to kick it off. But make sure you're following us on social media, Unsolved Couple Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure you're following. And it's been a while since we've had a new review, and those make a big difference. So please hop on wherever you guys listen, leave a 5-star rating and review. If you do leave a review, send me a message. I think I still have several, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 stickers I can mail out to you if you leave us a 5-star rating and review. Any other homework? Oh, Buy Me a Coffee link is down below. Check that out to help support the podcast. And yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping notes.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. First story. This is in Bullhead City, Arizona, in this state. All right. We get introduced to Sue Johnson. Her and her family moved to Bullhead City from California. In 1973, she moves there with her 2 children, her 8-year-old and 7-year-old. And she tells us it's this perfect little town. They loved it there. I looked it up. I never heard of it. It's right on the Nevada border. It's along the Colorado River, so right along the Arizona-Nevada border. And she said she loved living there, raising her kids there, and right outside of their house, she says 50 yards from her house, is this old shack. And it was an old powder house for the mines. And anyone that, if you've ever go around in Arizona, there's a lot of like abandoned stuff from mining here. Even where we live south of here, there is a ton
Mining is very big here, but once the mining is gone, or once the material that they're mining is gone, the town kind of dries up.
Yeah, and
But it's
I've
everywhere.
I've even seen a lot of like old adobe houses abandoned, they're dilapidated. But this one is still intact. It just looks like a stone shed with a metal door.
This would have exactly what her kids use this for. This would have been
Yeah.
every kid in that neighborhood. This would have been a perfect
So
clubhouse.
Scott loved it. Him and his friends played out there. She said she didn't mind. It was awesome to have her kids out there. She could see the shack from her house and they used it. They pretty much just became their clubhouse and they played cops and robbers and all that in the front yard. They were kids, so they hung out there and played. But 3:45 p.m. on April 3rd, 1974, someone has called in a fire at the shack. So fire department gets there, they put out the fire. We get the chief at the time of the fire department, Larry Adams, and tells us a story he remembers vividly showing up. And mind you, it's a volunteer fire department. So he says they get the door open because it's stone. So there's just a lot of smoke and stuff coming from it. Gets the door open. He says he sees upholstery, like a carpet in there. And when he tries to kind of get or he pulls it back and he finds, unfortunately, two bodies.
This one was really hard for me. I mean,
Yeah,
it's children.
it's very sad.
Yeah.
Very, very sad. So, unfortunately, one of the bodies is Scott Johnson and his friend. They don't tell us his friend's name. So, obviously, they call the police. The sheriff's office comes out. They investigate, they take the bodies. After 7 weeks, the coroner rules this death an accident. They just said that it appeared that the kids were probably playing with matches or something, started a fire, and they, died in an accident. But we get the fire chief back, Larry Adams. I said he does not believe this is an accident, and he seems pretty upset about it. He said because one thing is the door; it was a metal door. It wasn't locked and there was nothing blocking the door. And this is like when I say shack, it's a 6 by 6. It's not very big. At least that's what he says. And I'm gonna guess the pictures in
The
the
pictures looked like it was the building or maybe something similar in
well,
the.
they show one of the origin.
I just realized I was mute. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a 6 by 6, which seems really it is small.
Well, they show one of the pictures from the crime scene. It
Yeah.
is. It's very small. So he's
But there
like
was no reason why the boys
couldn't have just pushed the
couldn't
door
have
open, walked
exactly and
right out.
walked out. Yeah.
So he doesn't. That doesn't make sense. He also notices several feet away from the shed is this board, and on the board is a burn mark, a pretty severe burn mark. So he thinks he's like what it looks like him is someone was trying to hold the door closed. The door got too hot because it's metal,
Yeah.
so they use this board to put across it to hold it closed. And then when they were done, they discarded the board.
Yeah.
So, but the police close the investigation and rule it an accidental death. So, uh, his mom, Sue, continues to fight. She does not believe that this is an accident. She continues to try to push for this case to be reopened. And in 1978, so 4 years later, a convicted felon comes forward. His name is Dale Gordon Meter. All right. Sorry. And he is incarcerated in New Mexico. But he lived in Bullhead City at the time of the fire. And he tells a story that he knows something about this fire and these boys. And we get the detective from Mojave County Sheriff. And he pretty much says, yeah, so we went and we listened to him, but a lot of guys try to say things to cut a deal and that. And he goes and tells this story that on the day this happened, He sees 2 men by the shack, and they're carrying 2 kids, and they put them in the shack. He even says one of the boys looked drugged, and one of the guys is carrying a gas can. So, um, he apparently walks up to him and talks to him. It's like, "What's going on?" And they tell him the kids were gonna tell on them for smoking pot, and they told him to get lost. "We just burned up 2 kids." I'm sorry. Here's the thing. I agree with this. This whole scenario seems shady. But you're telling me this guy tells a story that he saw 2 guys kill 2 kids because they burned up. He goes and asks them, and they tell him and confess and then say, "Get lost?"
Well, they according to this man, took 2 innocent children's lives because they were gonna get tattled on from marijuana use,
But then confess it to a
confess
stranger
murder to a
and
stranger.
then let him walk
Yeah,
away?
that doesn't happen.
And maybe there's more to this story that I don't know, but, um so then he says he saw one of the men serving time in Nevada. Their paths crossed in Nevada at a prison. So I guess I did find out later. They don't say in Unsolved Mysteries. I ended up finding out the 2 names of the men. And the police go to Nevada. They find him. They question him, but no charges were filed. They don't have anything. So then we get Tina Re, Tina Moe and John Callis, and they were actually teenagers, and they were the ones that reported the fire. And they did say, I don't understand why these people's stories were not taken seriously. Because they said they pulled up, they see the fire, they saw 2 men, one of them facing the door, looking at the shack as it's burning, and the other man saw them and got scared and ran up the hill and ran away. So um, they kind of thought it was suspicious, so they went and called the fire department. But they said when they told the police this story that they saw these 2 men, the police didn't take them seriously because I guess these kids had had run-ins with the law. So the police just. But I'm like, but why? Like, they're the ones that
Because
reported
it's
the fire, and they
yeah.
say they see 2 people out there. That's something to
I
follow
it is
up
that
on.
how many times have we reported stories that things are unresolved or unsolved just from lack of police effort?
I
Yeah.
and I was so 1989, a new chief of detectives. He has talked to Sue many of times. He reopens the investigation and he deems it a murder investigation. So that's good. But unfortunately, 1989, now you're 15 years after the fact. And he says, he's like, listen, we're gonna do everything that we can. But unfortunately, I Abraham says, I don't know how far we're going to get, but that doesn't mean we're not going to try. And of course, as they do open it, many of the files and physical evidence has been misplaced or lost. So um, they then float one theory that Scott, the kid, he 3 weeks prior had found $100 bill by the area, and they thought maybe that was cash and drugs, or someone was using that area for drugs. But that's the only thing they bring forth. So we don't know. So unfortunately, this is where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. And so anyone knows any information, if anyone saw it, please say, like, we need people to
Tips. We
come
need
forward.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything since
All
the
right.
airing of Unsolved Mysteries?
Update. This is still unsolved.
I figured.
Yeah. Really no headway. Like I said, I I
At least it's been overturned to be a murder.
I agree.
I know that doesn't solve, it doesn't bring anyone home, but it opens a different path.
From what I could find, the one guy Dale that came forward. I mean,
The informant?
yeah. He
Yeah.
said he saw those other 2 people, and then went up and talked to him, and that
Yeah.
he's in jail. for life, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, uh,
Why would someone kill 2 little boys?
I
It's
don't know.
hard and if this did have something to do with marijuana, it's really hard for me to conceptualize that because, 1, here in the United States, in most states now, marijuana is a legal recreational activity for people to buy and use over the
Mm.
age of 21. It is almost no different here than
Yeah, but this is
alcohol.
50 years ago.
And that's what I mean. So it's so hard for me to like
I guess
conceptualize the thought that someone catching you smoking a joint or something, or 2 kids seeing it who probably at the age didn't even know what they were seeing.
he was 8 years old.
Exactly. You killed 2 babies. And you didn't just kill them, you put them in a size almost of a coffin and lit it on fire and then blocked the door.
Yeah, I think this guy's story, it's really hard for me to buy, but maybe it's true. I don't know. It's just hard for me to buy that this guy saw two guys throw these kids in.
Mhm.
And then he walks up and asks them what's going on. And they confess that they just killed the
Mhm.
two kids. And then the reason they killed them, and then let him turn around and walk away.
I'm gonna
But
guess
that,
that thread of truth is in there
that,
somewhere.
and let me make this very clear that I do believe that these kids just didn't light a fire in there and then stick in there. And it
Kids play with
appears
matches. They
foul play.
matches don't quickly burn up like that to the point where they couldn't have gotten out of the door before smoke inhalation took place.
And I
So
think,
that doesn't
I,
that story is more unbelievable to me than the other one.
yeah. And so, but then it does raise the two teenagers that saw it. I mean, they have no skin in this game,
No.
at least from what it appears, right? I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody.
Yeah.
They they reported the fire. They're like, hey, so, this needs to happen. Someone needs to go check this out. And then they tell the police, yeah, we reported the fire, and this is what we saw. So,
Well,
so,
and they didn't
so
know what they saw when they saw it. Like they
exactly,
didn't realize that there was
they're not.
2 babies inside
They
there.
have no
They just
idea.
saw a fire and 2 and did they say they saw 1 man or 2 men? What
Two. They saw one standing
Okay,
there
so now
looking at the door.
we've got technically
Yeah,
3 people saying that they saw 2 men standing
at
outside
the
that
fire.
shack.
So there was clearly
Yeah,
two men there. So who are they? And it
they're
appears that
monsters.
that they killed two kids. And unfortunately now, I'm not sure. I thought I might have read that his mom had passed away, but
Mhm.
don't quote me on that. Um, that, you know, it's now
Yeah.
50 years.
Well, listen, I know it's been 50 years. Cases like this are getting solved all the time. If this is still, it sounds like it's still an open investigation. If you know anything, if you hear anything, if you have interacted with someone who's talked about this or heard about this, make sure to reach out to Nevada law enforcement or I guess Arizona. Is it Bull City? And report any tips that you
Bullhead
might
City.
have. What?
Yeah, Bullhead City.
Bullhead City. I forget. Arizona is such a weird, diverse area because we live in southern Arizona and it's just brown and cactus and desert and dirt and dust. But you go up to northern Arizona by Flagstaff and it is like pine trees and high desert. And then if you go that direction, it's far more green because you've got the Colorado River right there, right?
Yeah,
But it's still considered desert. It's just, yeah,
it's
I
a
don't know.
unique
It's
area.
a very weird state. You can, with, if we had an ocean here, you could literally have all 4 like seasons almost, depending on where you wanted to spend your time. Okay, well, uh, it
I
breaks
know.
my
Very
heart.
sad story.
Yeah, because
Breaks
this
my
is a
heart.
parent, you're letting your kids go and play 50 feet from their front yard or their back door. Kids should be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And it's stories like this that I feel like have bled through generations to where now you don't see kids out doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know if I had a shack like that 50 yards from my front door,
Oh
I would have
man.
lived at it.
So I grew up for the first several years in Mississippi, and then we moved to a little tiny town called Looking Glass, and we lived just temporarily behind a convenience store. And behind our house was a baseball field that was basically abandoned and an old BMX racetrack that was also abandoned. And by BMX racetrack, I do not mean anything like fancy. It looked like at some point maybe some people had gotten together and done this. There was also an abandoned house out there which was haunted, so we never went into that. But the BMX track had like a white shack. And I don't even know if there was a front door anymore, but there was some open windows, like where maybe people would have sat in there to observe or to judge the BMX track racing or something. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And that was like so much imagination and play took place in that thing. It was a dream come true to have that in your backyard. And that's the thing, is to think that like just being out there being innocent kids caused these kids their lives is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll switch gears a little bit and I'm going to tell you about an unexplained category from Unsolved Mysteries. And what is Medjugorje? Medjugorje?
Medjugorje.
Medjugorje. Okay, this is about the Medjugorje miracle.
We've talked a little bit about it.
A little bit. We briefly touched on it pretty early
Yeah,
on.
we touched on it on the story of the cross,
Mm-hmm.
I think, excuse me, in Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
where they said that it looked like it was crying or something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember entirely,
Yeah.
but
So, from my understanding, there was a civil war in this area of the country where this little tiny town is. And before that had happened, thousands of people gathered every Sunday in a church in Medjugorje. And they came specifically to meet six children who called themselves the Visionaries. And that happened in 1981, where these group of kids claim that the Virgin Mary visited them on a field near the church. And four of them still claim to communicate with the Virgin Mary every evening at 6:40 p.m. 10 years later, many claim to have been healed at this location. So, this is a Catholic church, and the Virgin Mary is very important in the Catholic religion. I didn't do a lot of research on these kids. I did find a picture of them because this only happened in 1981. So, I believe most of them are still around today. But what Unsolved Mysteries is going to tell us about is some of the miracles that have come out of that area. And specifically, we're going to be talking about two different ones. So, Robert Stacks tells us about a former model named Jill Jensen from Chicago, Illinois. And her story's sad. She is so strung out and highly addicted to cocaine that she has started gouging open sores and wounds all over her body. In stark contrast, about 500 miles away, there is a woman named Rita Klaus who has tried everything she can to overcome the debilitating illness, multiple sclerosis, or MS, which is an uncurable disease. We know a handful of people that have MS. It is it wreaks havoc on their bodies. But the two women, even though they are a world apart in different ways, do have something in common, and that is Medjugorje. Why do I feel like I'm still saying that wrong? Am I saying it wrong?
no, you got it right.
Okay, just let me know. And I think this is in
But we've
Yugoslavia.
yes,
Yes, okay.
you've said it right multiple times. So if you say it wrong from here on out,
Just
people already know that you got it
okay,
right
did I take it right?
at one point.
I don't speak Yugoslavian. I don't think that's actually what it's called, but um there's a lot of J's and G's in the word Medjugorje, and being dyslexic, those are some of the hard. Anyone who's dyslexic will understand why those are hard when they're next to each other.
I don't even know how to spell it. I just know that's how Robert Stack said it.
Yeah, so if Robert Stack said it, we're taking it as gospel truth. It could be
Huh?
wrong.
Oh, hey, if he said it, it's right.
So these two women, along with thousands of other people, flock to this town after these six young people claim to have spoken with the Virgin Mary. Several people have claimed to be not killed, healed. Sorry.
That escalated.
Hold on. Let me take a sip of my water real quick. There we go. Several people have claimed to be healed at Medjugorje, including Joe, who claims to have been cured of abdominal cancer after him and his wife traveled to the village 3 times. A man named Kevin was 7 years old when his family went there, and several intestinal stomach problems vanished after visiting. Char's right leg had been shattered in a farm accident and healed mysteriously or miraculously, depending on how you look at it, after visiting this village. So, we're going to get a little backstory on Jill. Jill Jensen grew up in an upper middle class neighborhood in Chicago. When she was a teenager, she had done some modeling work, but unfortunately fell into drug experimentation. Her casual habits soon grew out of control, and she at one point was using up to $500 a day worth of cocaine just to fulfill her habits. And if this was in
Where do
the
people
80s,
get this money to
fifteen
do
hundred
that?
bucks. Sadly, most of the time addicts been asked where do these people get this money. They made terrible choices to get it.
I
And Jill
I
did not go
understand
into
what you're
detail. Yes,
saying there, but
but
still,
you're
yeah,
not holding down a job, so you've got to get this money somehow.
yeah. I know what we're insinuating.
Yeah,
I'm not, but it's like, whoa.
I know. Also, that's a lot of cocaine. Now, I don't know the street value of cocaine, but it seems like an expensive habit. And here's the thing, this is wrecking her life. She attends several rehabs. It seems as if, because her aunt is interviewed, that her family hadn't given up hope on her, that it seemed like she still had some support. And as someone who has known some addicts in her life, being someone who loves and supports an addict is a very difficult thing because a lot of times the addicts will take advantage of the people around them. But nevertheless, no one seems to have given up hope and faith on her. So she attends several rehabs. Unfortunately, none of them are successful. So in 1988, Jill's aunt goes to Medjugorje, and when she returns, she begs Jill to come with her, which I just thought was very endearing that this woman went there. I can't imagine it's cheap to get there. And still, her forefront in her mind was to extend the invitation to her niece. So the following year, Jill does agree to go, but she obviously has doubts about the effectiveness, particularly because at this point, her body is riddled with open wounds and sores because she would get so high on cocaine and so into these like drug induced paranoia paranormal states, not paranormal. Um what's the word I'm looking for? Like almost like in a
Paranoia.
paranoia, thank you. Paranoia psychosis sort of state that she claimed that bugs were crawling all over her skin, under her skin, and she was gouging them out with her fingernails. So she obviously is doubtful. Several rehabs have failed her, but she decides to go. And when she arrives, so I will say I found two contradicting things on Unsolved Mysteries, and I don't know if this makes a difference. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, if you are Catholic or not. According to Unsolved Mysteries, she met with an American priest. However, a lot of the other articles about her story claim that she met with a European priest. I don't know which is which. I don't know if it's important, but I thought it was a weird.
I mean, if the Catholic Church everywhere. So if you're a priest, a European, or you're this, like,
I
you're
know that
still a
like the Pope, this last Pope, or maybe the one before that, was like the first time it hadn't been someone from
the
that
Pope now
is
is
American,
an
right?
American.
And
That's
that
the
was a
first time.
big deal.
Yes, I could be
Yes.
wrong, but
Yeah, we're just
I'm
speaking
not
for.
Catholic, so I
No,
don't
we're
know.
not. But from my understanding, that was like unprecedented and not with the first time that had been done. So I don't know if this was important, but I'll let you know. Either she met with a European priest or an American priest. Either or, she meets with a priest. And for over an hour, and in the reenactment, she sits down with him and she's like, I don't really know what to do. Um, from my understanding, this church had become so popular, it appears at least that they call it a makeshift confessional because in a traditional setting, confessionals are behind closed doors and you don't sit side by side with a priest. You are behind a curtain or a veiled wall of some sort, and you're having a conversation with a voice on the other side. This church seems to be so overflowing with people visiting that these makeshift confessionals are taking place outside and you are more having a conversation with the priest. And again, I don't know if Jill is Catholic. And I'll be honest, I still don't know if a non-Catholic person can just go in and have confessional.
She's in the reenactment, or she says that she had been in her early childhood, but not obviously
Okay.
followed.
Yeah, because I know that there is a ceremony that Catholic children go through in like late adolescence, communion maybe, or partaking of their first communion. And so I don't know if you have to have done that to do confessional. I don't know, but she says I don't really know what to do, and he kind of explains to her like you're gonna tell me about your sins. And this opens up a conversation that she confesses a ton of stuff about her drug habits. And for over an hour, they have this confessional going on. And the priest does the Hail Marys and all the things that she's supposed to do. But on top of that, and I thought for anyone who is religious, I thought this part was very endearing because it reminded me of the Savior washing the feet of the people, that he served. Because the priest at this point washes Jill's sores with holy water. And I don't care what religion you are in, that to me is an act of service because I think as a person, that could be like something that you could be disgusted by or turned off by. And this man, instead, based on his faith and apparent love for this person that he had just met, he saw her differently and used his abilities and his faith to treat her with respect and love and kindness. And I think that there's something to be said about that. So now, mind you, I also want you guys to know that Jill couldn't bring cocaine with her. She flew to this place. So she is also very scared to go through withdrawals because withdrawal symptoms from the use of cocaine are horrific. Most of the time, it is done under the guise of like medical care. And so she's got kind of all of this going on, but she says that she didn't experience any withdrawal symptoms throughout this trip and that within like the next day her sores are healed and some of them are gone. She also met with one of the visionaries who prayed over Jill, and Jill's interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries and says that she hasn't used drugs since then.
I will say, when you see her,
You would have never guessed.
holy smokes!
Yeah.
I mean, this it does clearly is not a person that is addicted,
To currently get
and
$500 worth of cocaine a
and
day.
this yeah, and the way she's telling us of how she was and how she looked.
Mhm.
I mean, she very looks very nice, very
She's
well
well spoken, put
very put
together.
together.
Mhm.
Yeah, if it is quite the transformation.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is very it was a great story to hear, and I've got some updates on her that we'll kind of go over here at the end of this story. So, the other case that Unsolved Mysteries covers is about a woman named Rita Claus. Rita has actually always been a devout Catholic. In fact, when she was 15, she committed herself in Omaha, Nebraska to a covenant. And I'm going to guess then that meant that she was going to go
I
into like
think
becoming a nun.
a convent.
What did I say?
You said covenant.
Oh, covenant. That's a different religious term. A convent. Yeah.
Convent. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was just trying not to say the word convict because that's different also.
Well, she wasn't a
She wasn't a
convict.
convict. She was in a convent. And I believe that is what you do. And my only knowledge of this is from the musical, The Sound of Music. So I think that she was training or basically to become a nun. So a few years later, though, sadly, she's actually diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and soon withdrew from the convent
Convent?
convent and moves to Pennsylvania, and where she goes on to teach special education and meets a man named Ron Claus and gets married. Sadly, though, her MS symptoms had like started to really, really, really take hold of her life. Within 5 years, she had had three daughters, and Rita's symptoms are full fledged. And by 1984, she begins to lose her vision, loses loss of her legs, amongst other symptoms, and is forced to use a wheelchair or use crutches. However, in 1986, Rita hears about Medjugorje and began praying to the Virgin Mary and fasting, just like other visionaries. However, she was unable to go due to financial reasons. Then one night, Rita claimed that she heard a voice that said, quote, "Why don't you ask?" End quote. And she began to pray. The next morning, Rita was at class when she felt her feet and toes and realized that she could lift her legs. And when she realized that she could walk again, she was completely healed. 6 years had gone by and none of her symptoms had returned. She believes, even though she never visited the actual location, that she was healed because of the faith and stories coming out of Medjugorje. So, those are the stories, and that is kind of where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
All right. I
Okay.
mean, is there an
Here's a
update?
few. I found some few things. Okay. Medjugorje is obviously still a place that people seem to flock to for different kinds of reasons. I found hundreds of posts online sharing incredible experiences at the location.
Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, but the town is still
Yeah, I mean,
there.
obviously,
Yeah,
like,
but
it's just not a
it's
country
not a
anymore.
country anymore. As of September 2024, though, the Catholic Church has officially refused to declare this as alleged apparitions to be. The Catholic Church has a very strong set of rules that and I think you kind of talked about this a little bit with how what they categorize as a miracle or different things.
Yeah, because I don't know. I
One thing
was
I read that
talked a
one of
little
the
bit
reasons
about
they haven't categorized it as
categorize what? These 2 stories or
the
Medjugorje?
entire Medjugorje, like, and the communication with the Virgin Mary, that they haven't categorized it as visions or made it official yet was, and this I could be wrong, but that they have to have a start and an end. And since these like quote unquote miracles haven't ended yet, they can't investigate it until there's a conclusion of the event. Because this happened like in 1981, these six kids with
Are
that
these
you
kids
call the
still to this
visionaries.
day saying they
Yes, from
are in
my understanding, they
communication?
are still talking about these kids today still claim that they have done this. I don't know if they're still communicating every single day from that area, but yeah.
Interesting.
Again, that's just what I could find. So I do believe I found Jill on social media. Um, in 2016, there was a blog post with some information on it that said Jill has not used drugs since her visit. She's spoken around the country, uh, specifically the United States, at large school groups and churches, and has shared her experiences to many audiences and continues to share in hopes and teaching others about the dangers of drug addiction. So that was in 2016 that someone talked about that. It the Facebook the post or the Facebook profile that I found that I do believe is her. If it is the same woman, she seems to be doing very well and by all appearances seems to be happy and healthy and does not appear, at least from the outside looking in, to have a heavy cocaine drug
Using
habit.
$500 in cocaine a day.
Yes. So, and then I believe Rita is still alive. I did find an obituary and to find me a grave, but the timeline doesn't exactly match up.
So
And
Yeah,
you found the
I
same one
did a
too.
little bit,
Yeah.
very minimal, and I found one a a grave, but when you look at it,
I don't think it's hers.
I'm pretty certain that's not her.
Yeah.
It's
Because I was
just
trying to see if any of her symptoms ever did come back, or I mean, because MS is will eventually, it
yeah,
it will take your it's a fatal illness
yeah.
with no cure. But I haven't found anything saying, but I did find that Rita has published a book that tells her story in complete, titled Rita's Story. There's also a handful of YouTube videos because she's gone around to many churches and spoken about the power of healing through faith.
I think, like, the last one that was the late
Yeah,
90s.
that's the thing is it seems
It
like I
wasn't
don't think I found anything
recent.
after like 96 or 97 about
I think
her.
I saw one, like, from '98 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So I don't
But it
know.
maybe just means that she kind of went back and wanted to live her
Yeah.
life and spend time with her family, which I can totally respect.
Totally respect. So that's I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Do
No.
you think it's a miracle or do you think
Yeah, here's
yeah.
the thing, I'm not Catholic, but I am someone that has a deep faith, and, I do believe in God, and I do believe that God still performs miracles. I know religion it's a hot topic amongst people, and I can't even explain why he would do it for one and not the other. I think that's
Yeah.
it's
That's
a
hard.
hard it's a hard hurdle to get over.
Mhm.
Who am I to say how he does it, when he does it, and where he does it? So yeah, I'm listening to the story, and I think it's
Yeah.
awesome. Me personally, like, I don't know if I would travel to a far land to obtain a miracle, but I'm also not of that faith. It's awesome to see that people have these they're going through hard times, they turned to faith and it helped them.
Mhm.
And they became better for it. And then they went out and they're trying to help other people
Yep.
become better. Anything that can help people turn to a faith in something,
Mhm.
I'm here for.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. I mean, technically it is still unexplained.
Yeah.
There's no way we can measure miracles and what they look like. So, I guess it's just one of those things. It's an uplifting story, in my opinion, that right now, with how the world is, we needed a little bit of maybe something uplifting to share. So it almost seemed to come at a really good time to be able to sit down and kind of share these, whether you look at them as miracles or whether you look at them as, acts of the body doing incredible things. Take with it what you will. But okay, Ben.
All right. I got a short story for you. All right. We are going to hear, they tell us May 5th, 1990, 7 a.m. Someone sets out in the Arizona desert. We're back in Arizona, sets a car on fire. Goes up in flames. 30 minutes later, a sheriff shows up, sees it, calls it in, and puts it out. The car is completely destroyed and completely melted. And they come to find out that this car is registered to a man by the name of Lee Young out of Scottsdale, Arizona. And he is a bank fraud investigator. And unfortunately, the police, there's no body inside, but Lee is now missing. And they do believe the worst, that this is a possible murder. First, they thought maybe this was a murder for robbery because Lee's pretty wealthy.
He shows his wealth through his beloved Rolex.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has a $25,000 Rolex that he wears
That is kind of money I'm never going to be able to understand. To just have 25 G's on your
on your
wrist.
wrist. Yeah,
But I will say, watch people are a different breed.
yeah,
I don't, everyone's got their thing. And yeah, when they said that he wore this diamond crusted
yeah,
Rolex, I was like, oh,
yeah. And also, I guess he was known to carry a lot of cash around because he bought jewelry and resold it. That was his side business. So, but when they open up the trunk, guess what they find? A bunch of jewelry and thousands of dollars. Not his Rolex though, but so they're like, okay, this is not a robbery. At least it doesn't appear to be. If it was a robbery, why didn't they take all this jewelry that he had in the trunk of his car? But the only thing that was missing was his briefcase. Well,
Attaché.
I wrote that. I wrote
Did you?
attaché. They didn't say it, but I wrote
Every
attaché.
time now someone says briefcase, I'm like, nope, it's
It's
an
attaché
attaché.
case. Attaché. Love that word. Anyways, his attaché case is missing with all of his files. And we come to find out that that might be important because a few months prior to his disappearance, he'd contacted the feds. And the feds that do, they didn't tell us which agency, the feds that do drug smuggling, because it is Arizona.
What
And
would the feds have been at that time? Because Department of Homeland Security didn't exist
nope,
yet.
it would have been either DEA or FBI.
Yeah.
So he contacts the feds because he thinks that his bank that he works for as a bank fraud investigator is being used for a money laundering ring. And they say, into the weeks prior, I guess he'd contacted them several months before to kind of bring this forward to him. And then supposedly the week leading up to his disappearance, he'd been trying to contact them, but he couldn't get a hold of them. I don't know why that's important, but they tell us that because we get a private investigator and he tells us that as he's dug into it, supposedly the investigation that this money laundering ring was tied to a Colombian drug cartel. So, did he stumble across something?
First off, I don't know what it is in Arizona, but burned up vehicles are no joke. You find them
So
all over the place.
when I heard it, because they tell us that his vehicle is found 100 miles southeast of
So it's
Phoenix.
like just north of
So
Tucson.
Tucson is southeast of Phoenix, and
Yeah.
we're about 100 miles
Yeah.
south of.
Did you find out where
Yeah,
it
I
was?
did.
Okay.
It's not where I thought, because where there's an area in the desert, we call it the burnt car wash.
Yeah.
It's a wash with a burnt car that has been there for decades.
Yeah. Well, even we went up to look at the petroglyphs. Is that what they're called? Petroglyphs.
Petroglyphs.
And we're walking down the wash to
And
look at
then
these petroglyphs. And then all of a sudden, and that car looked like it was from like the 1930s or 40s. It was an
it was like an old
old
50s,
Ford or
60
something. Yeah.
model car.
And it's burnt and rusted out. And I'm like, this is, yeah, I don't, this, and we had this other story. This same thing happened to the other guy in Tucson that worked for like the mortgage lending places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's up off 77 by Oracle.
Okay. Like pepper sauce or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
it's
Yeah, up
north of
there.
Tucson, but and it's like real close to Pinal and Pima County.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why a sheriff was able to say it was only like a mile off the road. I'm gonna guess say he saw the flames. He was driving
Okay.
77,
Yeah, because then the Scottsdale police are interviewed, but I was like, wouldn't it have been either Pinell or Pima County sheriff who would have showed up to the
but he was from Scottsdale, so I'm gonna guess they're heading the investigation because
because he's
he was.
missing.
So we did get told on May 4th, 1990, he is last seen leaving a restaurant at 12:30 p.m. And he's never seen again
Do we
after
know the
that.
name of the restaurant?
I did see it, but I didn't look it up.
What?
Yeah,
I wanted to know if it was still there.
I don't know. But and then guess what he has? He's got a car phone. And that afternoon, a call came into the phone and three were made out. One phone call was made to a payphone, and two phone calls were made to a woman who, when questioned, denied ever talking to Lee.
That lady's lying.
Well, maybe she didn't talk to Lee. Maybe she talked to the
Oh, I
killer.
guess if she said I didn't technically talk to Lee. Yeah.
And the Scottsdale PD say those phone calls were made after 2 p.m.
But she also clearly didn't state who she talked to. And if this is the Colombian drug lords or whatever,
I
then
also think that the police aren't going to tell us because it's an open investigation.
yeah, you're probably right. And what kind of drugs were they running at this time? Is this another marijuana again? Is this all over a bunch of marijuana, or you think
It
they were
was out of
Colombia?
Colombia
That's
in
cocaine,
1990. I don't know when Escobar was
but they
dead.
were coke, right? That
It
was
was
that was their big,
cocaine.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
cocaine was coming out of Colombia. So, yeah. So maybe the killer made him. We don't know. So they're just asking if anyone can come forward that might have seen his plum-colored Lincoln Town Car at the time when he left the restaurant in 1990,
Dude, a
May 4th.
plum car, I feel like, is a lost art. I would drive a plum colored car.
I believe you would. Or if anyone has seen his copper-faced diamond encrusted Rolex, because that was very distinctive and that was his gem. So, anyone have information? Come forward to the Scottsdale PD. That's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
Okay, update.
Still unsolved.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, nothing. And it's really
Has
hard.
his body ever been found?
No,
No.
nothing on this guy.
That's terrible.
hmm It is. So, no, I mean, he was an older gentleman, so I
So
don't know
all
if,
he did was report that he had I mean, that was his job, was bank, I guess, bank fraud, so he probably came across something, which makes me think someone higher up in the bank had to have known what was going on too.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there, but it's, there's nothing concrete.
But
And
speculation just that, yeah, he was probably told, Don't lift up, don't look under this stone," or
yeah, you know what? And this is, I get really upset. So, um, I got on Unsolved. So if you go on
Mhm.
unsolved.com,
Oh, the
they tell the
message board
stories.
underneath
It
is
it
wild.
appears in 2024 his granddaughter is still um
Pushing for this to be solved.
pushing for this because
Okay.
anyone that's, because here's what makes me upset. You can get me fired up here. People get on there and they all claim to know him or this. And anytime someone said is messaging them, she's replying. It's like, you knew him? Do you know anything? Blah, blah, blah. And I feel really bad because she cares. I mean, 2024, we're 34 years later,
Yeah.
here she is trying to dig this out. And like people get on there and just, it's amazing how many people know these people because all of the people that know them or knew something all come out of the woodworks and start commenting online.
The same thing of people calling and taunting families or
Yeah.
calling in and doing tips.
Because
I don't
one person claimed, "Oh, I worked with him, and the bank knew, or he knew, and he was doing this." He didn't. He claimed he knew him. He knew what was going on. He stole the money, and he moved to South America and lived a different
Oh,
life.
good
I'm like,
gravy.
okay, dude. And I think the even the granddaughter but it was like from 2016,
Yeah.
and she's like, "You knew him?" Like, blah blah blah, something. But
Yeah.
it's just, it is so frustrating.
What is it about human nature that people want to get involved in things, but not even for like, I understand people trying to be overly helpful when we hear of like the one I'm about to cover right now. And we've covered several missing persons reports where it's like there's hundreds of tips coming in claiming they saw this person in Canada, and then they saw them in Ohio, and then they saw them in Nebraska, like all over the place. That is one thing. That is people genuinely trying to be like, I might have seen something, so I'm going to say something.
Don't get me wrong. I am not discouraging people
But
to say,
to get on a Unsolved Mysteries, which is a huge show, and say that you know this man was a part of it and he stole the money and fled to South America, abandoning everybody with zero evidence or proof thereof is insane.
"Yeah,
It's probably more likely. And here's the thing, working in the world of lending, being a fraud manager at a bank, it is kind of crazy that he was making enough money to have 25 G's on his wrist. Maybe there's something to look at there. And I'm not, victimology is a different thing. Maybe he was partaking in things he shouldn't have been. With that said, if there is no evidence of that, or that isn't a known fact, or like, then why? This is not helpful.
W Someone that's committing crimes
Yeah.
doesn't go to the federal government and say, "Hey, I think I have a crime here."
Yeah. It's, yeah.
I just and again, w I
It's
there's
hard
no
because at
proof
the
on
same
that.
time, like, I also, maybe I'm a little bit of a coward, messing around with drug cartels. I've learned, and even like we talked about, the guy who hired a hitman to murder his uncle and then murdered the hitman. Like, people,
But he was just doing his job.
yes, that guy was
He's a
just
bank
doing
fraud
his job.
manager.
And that's what I'm saying is this man was just doing his job. And if he uncovered something and kicked over a stone with the Colombian drug cartels, they're not known to be very forgiving people.
And it isn't we have no idea.
Yeah.
They're just saying, there's this,
It is kind of,
there's a lot it could have been a robbery. We
yeah,
don't
I mean, nothing was taken except for his Rolex and his body. But that's the thing too
if he
is
had cash on
he had
him
cash on him
and he had a
because where is
$25,000.
his body at? Robberies are typically, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. It
yeah.
doesn't make sense. His body was never found.
It's hard, you guys. The Arizona desert too
It's
is no
unforgiving.
joke. I know that there is a young man that went missing. His name's Daniel. Only a few years ago, and I've talked to you about this. And this was up in, I want to say northwest of Phoenix. He was worked for, I don't know. I'm gonna get this so wrong, and I feel bad. I should know these facts like the back of my hand. He worked for the land management or water management or something, and he was out surveying land and doing things. And his Jeep was found crashed down a wash. And his father has basically like gone on the crusade. He's on the boots on the ground, pushing for his son to get off. But it's the same thing. His body has never been found. So they don't know what happened to him. It was like he vanished into thin air and then his car was found abandoned and wrecked. The Arizona desert, the kind of people that sometimes traverse through there, the elements that traverse through there, and the wildlife that is in that area, it's vicious.
Yeah, the desert is a very unforgiving place.
Yeah. But it makes me sad that,
But clearly, someone drove his car there. They set
yeah,
it on fire. So there are other people involved in this.
yes, this,
Something happened.
he wasn't just out parked in the desert sitting there and someone saw a crime of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or his car wasn't just abandoned and some stranger rolled up and said, let's set it on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, again, if you guys have any information, I mean, we're shooting 2 for 2 here on these unsolved cases. Please feel free to reach out to Scottsdale Police. And again, keep your eyes out. If you're ever out hiking around in those areas and you see something, make sure you call and report it.
If you find a Rolex,
You find a Rolex, it might not be your lucky day. Man, if I thought I found a diamond crusted Rolex, I'd be like, cha-ching. And then to find out that, like, oh, actually, we have to confiscate this because it's part of a crime. But me, I would also be like, that is cool that I helped be a part of that. I love true crime.
that's shocking. I'm
I know.
shocked by that statement.
I know. Ben always has to tell me because I'm always like, maybe I should just go looking for this, or maybe I should do this. Or with the Nancy Gus thing, he's like, you are not in law enforcement. You are the kind of people law enforcement don't like being like, well, I listen to a lot of true crime. So have you thought about this plan yet?
I'm an expert.
I'm an expert. All right. Well, I will finish us up with a story of Angela Hammond. And she is 20-year-old. She's 20 years old. And I'm going to start out by saying this. Actually, where is my phone's right here. Perfect. I'm going to pull up my chat that I have with a couple of my podcast friends because I'm going to tell you this. This story, while being told on Unsolved Mysteries, is insanely complex and in depth. I am going to give you the recap as told on Unsolved Mysteries. However, there is a lot of fear and a lot of things that have happened since the airing of Unsolved Mysteries. And so I've got a list here of a couple of podcasts that you can follow, and they've covered the case in depth. So, Like Mother, Like Murder recently did this case. And so please go check out their podcast. My friend Kylie hasn't yet, but if you do follow her podcast, Primetime Crime, she is going to also be, or at least we can try to bug her into covering an in depth series of it. And also, my friend Holly over at Holly is also currently, she said, it's in the works for me. So she's actually working out. So this is a well known case in the world of true crime, and it's very complex. Like I said, please check out those podcasts. Make sure you're following those or other independent podcasts who are planning on or have done a deep dive on it. But since we are just a recap episode or podcast, I'm going to be giving you guys the highlights as well as a few updates, but please go check those ones out. So, 22-year-old Angela is a popular young woman living in Clinton, Missouri. She works at a bank and was taking classes at Central Missouri State University. And in January 1991, she does become engaged to a young man named Rob, an athlete who planned to be in the military. Around 10 p.m. on April 4th, 1991, she drops him off at his home after a barbecue, and they had planned to meet up later after his mother got home from work because he was babysitting his brother at the time. Now, one thing that Unsolved Mysteries didn't mention, and I do think is important, Angela is actually pregnant at the time with Rob's child.
Yes, I did a little research. I
Yeah.
saw that.
And because I think there's a lot of people that are like, why did she end up? We're going to find out here in a minute that she calls him via payphone. From my understanding, being well, and having been pregnant before, you can make plans and then your body can tell you later, like, no, like you are sick or you're done. And from my understanding, that's kind of why they believe that she ends up having this conversation because they had plans to meet up. And so that ends up not happening. And we're going to find out that maybe was having some pregnancy symptoms. So Angela spends some time with her friend Kayla, and around 11:15 that night, she calls Rob from a payphone on the intersection on Jefferson and 2nd Street, 7 blocks from his house. Now, mind you, because this is 1991, that is about the only way she could have called him in route from, since she didn't have a cell phone and she wasn't at home. It sounds like she was hanging out with a friend and she changed her plans. So she was calling Rob to tell him that she was canceling, and she used this payphone. So while she's talking to him on the phone, she notices that a suspicious man is circling the block several times in a green Ford pickup. And it actually pulls up beside her, and the man gets out and acts as if he's going to use the payphone before actually hanging up and getting back into his truck, takes out a flashlight and then starts flashing it around his truck like he's looking for something. Angela is very uncomfortable to the point where she starts telling Rob, like, this man is here, he's following, he's circling, he's doing these weird things, this is behavior. And he asks her, well, what does he look like? So she gives him a description of the man, including the description of the truck, and then she actually engages with the man and says, hey, did you need to use the phone? Maybe assuming that the other phone is not working or broken. And he replied that he didn't need it right now, but he would try again in a minute. And so she then turns her back to this man and returns back to her conversation with Rob. And as a woman, I'm going to guess that her intention at that point is like, I'm just going to stay on the phone with my boyfriend until this man leaves because I'm getting the ick from him. And I think there is a sense of security that, like, no one's going to do something when you're on the phone with somebody else. Like, I remember that there have been times at night I've been walking alone and I've pretended to be in a phone conversation with somebody thinking that it makes me safer. Sadly, however, a few minutes later, Rob hears his girlfriend or fiance, Angela, scream. Chillingly, as she drops the phone, the man says, I didn't need to use the phone anyway. So Rob immediately drops his phone and he's interviewed you guys on Unsolved Mysteries and he's telling us the story. And you can tell this is very hard for him to recount this story.
Yeah,
He
you can
looks
definitely
shaken
tell.
up as he's telling it.
Yeah, he's definitely bothered by
Yeah.
this.
So Rob drops his phone and drives towards the payphone because, again, it's only 7 blocks from his house, hoping to help her. So, as he's driving quickly towards his place, he sees the abductor's green truck speed past him in the opposite direction and hears Angela yell out to him. Rob abruptly threw his car into reverse. And I will say, I found this on another podcast that so unknowingly this damaged the transmission in the process. And I guess older cars, there used to be a fun trick that kids would do when they were driving it where you're speeding and then you drop it into reverse. It throws the transmission out of gear, but it like it looks cool. I guess. I don't know. I know nothing about cars,
Don't do that.
but this was a problem in these older vehicles because he was obviously acting on
If you still do that now, it's bad for a transmission.
if you're driving forward and you just throw it into reverse. Yeah,
Yes, don't do that.
don't do it. Yeah.
Even today, don't
Okay,
do it.
don't do that. We are not race car drivers, NASCAR drivers. So he flips a U and he follows the truck for about 2 miles before his car starts to to-doom, 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 and the transmission fails. This feels like a horror movie, doesn't it? Like
Yeah, I mean,
you have there's no
talk
cell phone, so
about
you can't call the police and say, "Here's the license plate. I'm following him. Come,
yeah,
come, 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 come."
talk
It's
about having the thing go wrong at the
worst
worst
moment.
time possible.
So, unfortunately, he's stuck in the middle of the road watching the car head or taillights drive away off into the distance, never to be seen again. So, police are informed and an extensive search for Angela begins. The abductor and his truck, the Missouri State Highway Patrol check hundreds of trucks matching the descriptions. Every one of them is ruled out with few leads in the case. They actually go back and even questions Ron's story because I will say this story seems almost unbelievable.
Well, and they say there's no one else. No one corroborates his story in the fact there was no one else on the street. No one else seemed to have seen anything.
So I ended up finding out later that witnesses did come forward, but at that moment there wasn't. They were actually
Well, I'm sure.
able to find two young girls, two teenage girls were out driving that night and thought that they recognized Angela as a different friend of theirs on the payphone and actually pulled into the parking lot, saw the green truck. And I will say the green truck is very distinct because it's this olive green. It's a big, either appears to be like a Ford or a Chevy older model truck. But the big thing that was distinctive about it is it had like an airbrushed decal on the back window. And that was very popular at the time. And it's of a fish like jumping out of a lake. And so there was later two teenage girls that were able
Well, that's
to,
probably what cleared him
yeah.
because they said they investigate him
Mhm.
and then clear him.
Yeah. So he does agree to take a polygraph test. He indicates that he was telling the truth. And then the two witnesses come forward later that they'd been there between 11:30 and 11:45. So it takes a few weeks, but he's cleared. 2 days later, Angela's abduction is possibly connected to two other unsolved cases, all within a 100-mile radius. The first occurred near Mackus Creek, Missouri, on January 19th. 42-year-old convenience store worker Trudy called her son to report a suspicious man lurking outside. Less than 2 minutes later, her son arrives at the store and finds it empty. Unfortunately, 2 days later, her body was found in a riverbank 10 miles from the store. She had been raped and shot in the head. The other case involved 30-year-old Cheryl, another convenience store worker near Nevada, Missouri, which is 70 miles from Mackus Creek, and she vanished after locking up her store on the night of February 27th. Her car was found abandoned in the parking lot, and it is believed that she was also kidnapped. And this happened just a month before. So, is the authorities are starting to question, do they have a serial killer or serial abductor in their midst in West Central Missouri? Even though they hold out little hope that either Angela or Cheryl are alive, or sorry, Sherry is alive. Cheryl. Nope, Cheryl. They have been unconfirmed sightings of Angela in several states, including Canada. And we get some pictures. We get a reminder of description. The man is described as like an middle-aged, disheveled, very dirty, dirty clothed white guy, and
Wearing overalls.
wearing overalls. Yeah, like total. Like this sounds like it is straight out of a movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially with it being like middle of the nowhere, Missouri. Like the hills have eyes, sort of vibe. It's creepy. Anyways, and that's kind of where Unsolved Mystery leaves us. Okay.
Alright, update.
Update. I believe so. First off, Angela's story is unsolved. I believe that the other two women that they mentioned have been solved. I didn't do a ton of research onto those, so I could be wrong, but
I think I read a little bit that at least one of them was.
yeah. On the 30th anniversary of the disappearance, new details were provided to the public via um, the Clinton Police Department's Facebook page. Investigators shared with the public that they are working on a theory that Angela was actually mistaken for another woman who had been targeted in the aftermath of a case um, of her father's legal affairs. There was a man who acted as an informant on a narcotics case, and his identity was supposed to be kept secret.
But it
Um,
wasn't.
but it seems like maybe it had gotten out who he was, and he had actually received a life-threatening note um, about his daughter, who was also named Angela. And the note was sent on April 4th, 1991, the very evening Angela abduction, 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 good gravy, had taken place. Authorities believe that due to their similar names and appearances, that they were unfortunately mixed up, and Angela Hammond was mistakenly abducted. As of April 2021, that is the theory that is being investigated. There is no further updates from that. I found the note that had been sent. It was like an old fashioned cutout from a magazine. So I feel like I didn't tell that story very well because there's so much more to it.
No, you told it how Unsolved
But
Mysteries
I told
told
it
it.
how Unsolved Mysteries told it. Like I said, there's a handful of other podcasts that have done that, some that I can recommend. I even looked, I was surprised there's not any. I thought for sure Dateline or someone would have done a more in depth dive on this, and they hadn't. I don't believe that her body has ever been found. Um,
No.
yeah. The thing is, there's stories like the one you covered earlier about the two boys that, if you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, the likelihood of them being solved is going to be on the lower end. This one I feel like is on the higher end.
I was surprised.
I was surprised too.
It's a terrible story.
It is a terrible story. Yeah. So if you do have any information, you once again, please contact the Clinton Police Department. This is still considered an ongoing investigation. They are collecting tips at this time. 660-885-8679. And to date, Angela would be about 45. No, no, can't remember. I looked up her
She was 20 in 1990. She'd be like 65.
65 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sad.
okay. All right,
All right.
guys. That is, I mean, this is kind of,
This was a downer one.
yeah.
I mean, besides the miracles, that was a nice
But
story.
all three of the cases of
Unsolved.
murder or disappearances are still unsolved to this day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we still have two people missing, never found.
Never found.
Their remains have never been found,
And then one story of two boys who it's now been categorized as a murder,
but unsolved.
but unsolved.
I
Yeah.
mean, technically, people could have just watched this episode and they would know as much as we know. We
Mhm.
didn't give them any new information.
I know, sorry, guys.
They're probably that's
They're
it.
turning off, never
They're
never
never
listening
coming
again.
back.
Never coming
What's the
back.
point?
What's the
What
point?
is the point? Where do you get
Where do
off
you get off sharing unsolved stories on your Unsolved Mysteries
and
podcast?
not having a resolution? You know how I feel about
I know you
resolutions.
do. All right, guys. Well, yeah, that is our recap of season 4, episode 16 of Unsolved Mysteries. If you don't want to stick around with Silly Question Time with Ben, feel free to exit stage right. And for our favorite listeners who do like our chitty chat, Ben, here's your question. What is one thing that you miss about the 90s?
No cell phones and no internet.
You would go back to that?
100%. Absolutely.
Interesting. So I just saw this challenge maybe like a week ago on Instagram, and it's called like a 90s week.
I would love that.
You think we could do it?
100%.
I mean, it,
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, people. I'm just as much on my phone as everyone else. I love my podcasts.
mhm,
I love the convenience. I love my baseball game that I play, and I watch shows on it, all of it.
yeah. So I saw this mom in particular. She went to like Goodwill and bought AM/FM radios with a CD player, alarm clocks. So she took everything. Her kids agreed to do this for a week, and I don't know if there was a reward at the end, but she was like, my kids are always asking me, like, oh my gosh, what was it like growing up in the 90s? Because we talk about it with such like nostalgia.
Mhm.
And I think she did it over their spring break.
I would love it.
And it was like, okay, everyone had to turn in their cell phones. You were allowed to be on your phone to make phone calls, but you couldn't be on your phone if someone was on the one computer allowed. And it was the computer was she said they brought out her laptop and it was set up in the living room. And if someone was on that, no one was allowed to be on the phone because back in the 90s, if you hooked up to the internet,
Yeah. I know
you
I was talking about that with the kids the other
yeah.
day.
And so she said like if you have something after school, you have to go to the office. Like she was explaining all of these, like all the rules that she could come up with. I think the only one that she had a hard time coming up with, like how to make it like the 90s, was streaming services. Cause she was like, we had TV and we had cable back then, but you couldn't pick what was on. And she didn't have like a way to like, she
Yeah.
wasn't going to pay for cable
For a
for
week.
a
Yeah.
week. Yeah. And so I think she came up with these rules like you could only watch one show at a time. You couldn't binge something.
You just watch one episode.
One episode, if you were to sit down and watch an episode, you couldn't watch anything on YouTube. Like it had to be like through Netflix or like one of the main streaming services. And if someone was watching it on the television, again, the tablets are turned off. So you couldn't, like, everyone had to sit
And watch that.
and watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm here
so
for it.
I was like, could we do it? Would be hard when we homeschool because I don't know if I have the equipment and stuff to like not use technology during that time, but I thought it might be fun to kind of do that like the first week of summer.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's been great. I understand that it is, the convenience and all
Hmm.
that. And I myself, I mean, the minute I get in my car, I turn on music, I turn on a podcast, I'm entertained, you know. I
Yeah.
use my phone for entertainment and that. Um, but like this story we talked about, these two little boys. I understand it's a very sad story, but the that's kids
7 and 8 year olds now would be on their
kids
tablets.
just play outside.
Yeah.
They make up games
Mhm.
and that. And I did that. I made up games. I came up with things like
Yeah.
I did all kinds of things to entertain myself.
Yeah.
And or you were just riding your bike around the neighborhood trying to find your friends to do what? Like,
Yeah.
you didn't call, you just showed up at your friend's house and knocked
No
on
one
their
arranged
door.
play dates.
No, you just
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I understand, like, the internet came around we started getting it towards the end of the 90s for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I miss. I no understand. Like the will never go back. I was
No.
saying I we had the conversation. I was having the conversation with the kids the other day that they're growing up, dealing with the same thing we're dealing with is they're gonna grow up. AI came around
Mhm.
and they're gonna grow up and AI by the time they're our age will just I have no idea what
It'll
capacity.
be integrated into every
But the
part of their
same
lives, yeah.
capacity but now, like, the internet and phones is such an integral part of our lives
Mhm.
that that'll probably be AI,
Yeah.
and that was for
They will
us.
remember a time before AI and a
Yeah,
time after.
and that was us, what we remember before the internet
Mhm.
and phones. I mean, a cell phone wasn't a thing for
No,
us
unless you
until
were
we
Zach
were
Morrison.
20, you
Yeah.
know, and, but now the we know so anyways, yeah, we were talking about it the other day, and yeah. Anyways, what about you?
Um, I actually phones is one of them thing because I miss kids allowing to be kids. And because here's the thing, I think even adults mess this up sometimes. So I'll give you an example. I want to say it might have been towards the end of last summer. A lady gets on these Facebook groups on local neighborhoods are wild. And she shares a video of a ring camera of her driveway. It's the middle of the day, and there's kids running through the neighborhood on the sidewalk, and it appears, from what you can tell, that they're playing a game of hide and seek.
I think you
Mm,
showed this to me.
I was really bothered by this lady. I think she was
I
out of touch, out
I
of bounds, big
I thought
time.
I agreed with you on this.
And clearly, this lady values her cars because she lives in a middle class neighborhood and has like a Tesla and some other big, overly priced car in her driveway. And no one touched her car, but one of the kids like crouched down in her driveway. Like they didn't get underneath the car, but it was like they
He hid
crouched down,
behind the
like hid
car.
behind the tire a little bit. Like, and you can kind of see maybe at one point he's like a little underneath it, but he's hiding from his friend who is on a scooter going up and down the neighborhood trying to find these kids. And this lady has the audacity to post this video on social media and chastise the parents of these children and like that if there's any damage done to her car, she's coming after that, just like rants and raves about this. And I was kind of surprised as there was a few people on there that were like, "Oh my gosh, these kids are going to get hurt." And I get you shouldn't hide in the bed of people's trucks and their
I was gonna
driveways.
say, kids, if you're in my neighborhood, you can hide in the bed of my truck.
Yeah, no one
I don't
cares.
care.
I would say for dangerous reasons, like hiding underneath someone's car could be dangerous, and maybe that would if that was had been her concern, like, hey, one of the kids crawled under my car. Just if this is your kid, please just make them aware. Like, I don't care. Just maybe hiding underneath a vehicle is not a safe place to hide. I could see that, but again, that was not her point. Her point was that these kids
We're on her
were on
property
her property
and around her
and
cars,
around her cars,
being kids.
being children.
Did she
Not
get roasted for
oh,
this?
and then everyone else came out and was just like, "You must have had a very different childhood than we did," because the fact that there is some parents out there who one aren't hovering over their children because I even have a hard time letting my kids go out and ride their bikes
Yeah,
because I don't trust other people,
yeah.
especially this kind of woman. I don't want my kid to be painted as some bad kid because they were playing hide and seek with their friends. Also, people don't pay attention when they're driving because they're on their phones. So it makes me nervous having my kids out on their bikes or their scooters. So I already have a hard time, but like that there was a parent out there letting their kids run amok in a neighborhood and play hide and seek with their friends on a scooter, I think is awesome and should be commended.
Yeah, it's
And
just
so it's like almost to the point where we have so much, and there are times where I get ring cameras and all of that are very helpful when a crime is committed or someone's gone missing or there's a mystery to be solved. But we have people weaponizing technology for other reasons to like be terrible human beings. I'm like, we don't let kids be kids anymore. I toilet papered people's houses. Like,
I know, like, well, you see it now, like, people get upset when kids
Oh, the
ding door
people
ditch or
and you
whatever.
guys,
Ding
in our
dong ditch.
neighborhood, when people share the videos of people ding dong ditching, they're like, there are people in the comment section that are like, they're lucky they didn't come by my house. Like, I have a gun or I have a, you know, crazy aggressive dog. And I'm like, first off, teenager doorbell ditching you doesn't give you the right to protect your home. You are not in danger. These are 14-year-olds
I just yeah, I
who
don't
did
know.
not doorbell ditch, who did not prank call. Like, kids are still going to have the desire to cause a little bit of mischief and to also have fun. But then you're also the same people that complain that kids don't know how to communicate with other people's or they're always on their tablets. And I'm like, which one do you want, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people just want to complain at all times,
Yeah.
no matter what it is.
Yeah.
And it could like
No,
could be
we have
like
a swing in our front yard and a basketball hoop. And if I walked out there and saw some kid, and I have before on the
we
swing,
literally walked out and there was two teenagers swinging on our swing, and I literally said, "Hey, what's up, guys?"
yeah,
And they like were kind of embarrassed. I was like, "I don't
I don't
care,"
care.
and you're not as long as you're not doing damage, and they weren't.
No. And if
So
something happened and you broke it by accident and you knocked on my door and said, hey, man, I was goofing off on your swing. I'm really sorry. Cool. Congratulations. I'm really proud of you for coming to my front door because that
yeah,
couldn't have been easy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I did. I love the '90s,
I
and
feel like in the era we live in now, I don't think children are allowed to be children anymore for a myriad of reasons. And I think one of the reasons is because, you know, technology doesn't allow that to happen as easily.
or
And I
maybe
get
we.
it. I'm a parent too. There are times we drive to Phoenix. I tell my kids download a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I've used
Oh,
all of this stuff for
100%. I am
convenience.
not innocent of not being the parent that's been like, it's the afternoon. Everyone is like plugged into their different devices, doing different things. Guess what? I'm going to close my eyes and take a nap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% guilty because it's
Yeah,
convenience
it's
and it's
easy.
easy.
And I'm lazy at times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all have the tendency to be lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But and maybe we're just the old people now that say that it was the good old days and things are so different now,
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
And I'm sure in the '90s, people that grew up in the '70s are like, "Oh my gosh, you guys have no idea," or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and hated that. And now I'm just that, you know, maybe our kids will grow up and be like, "Oh, remember the day where you just were on a tablet?"
And that was enough.
That was yeah, you
Yeah.
know, I don't
I don't
know.
know. All right, guys. Well, make sure to drop a line on our social media and share your favorite 90s nostalgia moments or maybe what you miss or what you would get rid of, I guess, if you could. Or if you are willing
Yeah,
to
maybe
take a
we talked
90s
about what
challenge.
we get rid of instead of what we missed, but
Yeah, I don't know. But all right, guys. Well, make sure to join Ben and I again here next week where we recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.